Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, ma'am.
How's everybody?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening again. Long time no
Evening, ma'am.
see. Good evening.
I was bit of busy in multiple
Sorry?
interviews. I was busy in multiple interviews, so one after another, all were lined up.
Unable to hear you. Sorry.
Ma'am, I was busy in interviews.
Okay. But you'd already cracked one, no?
Yes, but the final round is pending, so I have final round in next week. I'll have to
Okay.
go Hyderabad for the last round.
Okay. All right. Okay. I once again urge everybody to switch on their cameras. And my next question is, who wants to present? Let us finish the presentations first, and then we will have some time for group discussions. Shantanu, who else? Quickly raise your hands. Ashutosh. All right, without wasting time, Ashutosh, Shantanu, please share your screen.
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute. Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. Good evening, all. Today I am presenting the automobile January sales update. In that, firstly, we see the total industry sales is grew by 24.6% year on year, and they sold in Jan 2026 approx 20 lakh 18,000 units. And in that, big contributor is two wheeler and followed by the four wheeler. Here we can see the four wheeler is grew by 18.2% year on year, and nextly the two wheeler we can see is grew by 25.8% year on year, and they sold approx 14 100 for 1458 units in Jan 2026. And in two wheeler segment is led by the Hero MotoCorp, and four wheeler segment is led by the Maruti Suzuki. And when we see the three wheeler segment is grew by 55.9% year on year, and CV segment also increased by 29% year on year. And we when we see the domestic sales growth, in that we see the domestic sales is grew by 23.7% year on year. They sold approx 1,636,000 units, and export also grew by 28.4% year on year, and they sold 445,000 units. And when we see the four wheeler segment, in that we see the four wheeler segment is grew by 18.2% year on year, and they sold approx 444,000 units in Jan 2026. And when in that the total domestic sales is driven by the domestic PV sales. Here we can see the sales mix. The domestic sales is a big contributor, is contributing approx 84%. And when we see the PV domestic sales is grew by 12.3% year in year, and it's grew by it's they sold the approx 375,000 units in Jan 2026. And when we see the export is grew by 64.1% year on year. And in the PV domestic is in that PV domestic lead by the Maruti Suzuki. They sold approx 182,000 units, and also the PV export is led by the Maruti Suzuki. And in export, Maruti Suzuki sold the 51,000 units, and Maruti Suzuki export is grew by 88.3% year on year. And In the PV sales, we see their sales mix is big contributor is Maruti Suzuki is approx 49%, and followed by the Tata Motors, Mahindra, and next is Hyundai. And going to the next segment is a commercial vehicle. In that we see the total CV sales is grew by 29% year on year. They sold approx 151,000 units in Jan 2026, and these are driven by the PV domestic sales is contributing approx 84%, and in the CV domestic is grew by 25.3%. They sold 127,000 units in Jan 2026. In the CV segment, driven by the strong demand from the Bajaj Auto, is approx 24,000 units. They grew by 53.4% year on year. And next will be the Tata Motors Limited. They also grew by 42% year on year, and they sold 3,000 units. And when we see the going to the next, Maruti Suzuki, in that we see the Maruti Suzuki total sales is grew by 12% year on year, and they sold approx 233,000 units. And in the total sales mix, we see the domestic PV sales is big contributor is approx 77%, and followed by the export PV and domestic CV. In the when we see the domestic PV sales is grew by 0.6% year on year, and they sold approx 182,000 units. And in the export PV sales is grew by 88.3% year on year. They sold 51,000 units in Jan 2026. In When we see the domestic sales is reflecting the strong demand from the uh, local market, and export PV sales show the strong global demand. Overall, the Maruti Suzuki show the strong PV, strong domestic PV demand, and also the CV segment exports. And when we see the Tata Motors Limited, in that we see the total sales is grew by 43.6% year on year, and they sold approx 113,000 units in Jan 2026. That's total sales is driven by the PV domestic is grew by 46.1%, and they sold 17,000 units in Jan 2026. And that domestic sales is driven by the SUV segment. In that the strong SUV demand in the domestic markets. And going to the export, we see the strong domestic strong export PV sales is by 251%, 51.7% year on year, and it's they sold 144,000 units in Jan 2026. And when we see the CV segment of Tata Motors is grew by 29.1% year on year, and they sold 38.8 thousand units. It show the strong demand for the CV segment is driven by the infrastructure and construction activity. And going when we see the CV export is grew by 42% year on year. They sold 275 units. It show the strong international demand and improve the shipment across the global market. Overall, the Tata Motors show the strong PV also CV demands, and they expanding in the PV export markets. And going to the next company is Mahindra and Mahindra. In that we see the total sales is grew by 23.8% year on year, and they sold in Jan 2026 approx 104,000 units. And in the total sales is driven by the strong domestic PV sales in domestic PV sales is contributing the 61%. When we see a specific domestic PV sales is grew by 25.4% year on year, and they sold 64,000 units in Jan 2026. And that domestic sales is driven by the ACV, strong ACV demand. And going to the export, in that we see the export is grew by 5.1% year on year. In that they sold 4,000 units in Jan 2026. They also show the strong PV demand from the global market. And when we see the CV segment demand, CV segment is the grew by 23.2% year on year, and they sold 37,000 units, and it's supported by the stronger rural demand. Overall, Mahindra and Mahindra is deliver the strong domestic PV and export PV demand, and they expanding in the PV SUV segment. And going to the next company is Hyundai Motors India Limited. In that the total sales see when yeah, see 11.5% grew, and they sold the 73,000 units in Jan 2026. And in total sales, we see the domestic PV is big contributor, is approx 82% year on year, and domestic sales is grew by 9.5%, and they sold 59,000 units in Jan 2026. It's highlighting the strengthening demand in the domestic market. And next, going to the export sales. In that we see the export PV sales is grew by 20.9% year on year, and in that they sold 14,000 units. And overall, the Hyundai Motors is deliver the strong sale in the domestic PV and export. And when we see the two-wheeler segment, that the total two-wheeler segment is grew by 25.8% year on year, and Jan 2026 sales is for 1,458,000 units. And in that the big contributor is domestic two-wheeler. In here we can see the domestic PV sales, domestic two-wheeler sales is grew by 27.4%, and they sold 11 like 18,000 units in Jan 2026. And in the domestic sales, here we can see the big contributor is Hero MotoCorp, and followed by the TVS Bajaj Auto. In that here we can going to the next export of the two-wheeler is grew by 20.9% year on year, and they sold in Jan 2026 approx 314,000 units. And in that the big contributor is Hero MotoCorp, TVS, and Bajaj Auto. In that the we see Bajaj Auto is sold approx 215,000 units, and they grew by 25.4% year on year. And when we see the three-wheeler segment, in that the total sales is 5.9% year on year, and they sold 27,000 units in Jan 2026. And in that also big contributor is domestic. When we see the domestic sales it's grew by 54.8%. In the they sold 16,000 units in Jan 2026. And when we see the exports, it grew by 57.5%, and they sold the 11,000 units in Jan 2026. Overall, the three-wheeler segment is show the strong demand and growth compared to the previous year month. And we are going a specific company wise. We see the Hero MotoCorp is total sales is grew by 26% 558,000 units. In that also big contribution by the domestic sales. When we see the domestic sales is grew by 6.1% year on year, and they sold 520,000 units in Jan 2026. And when we see the export sales is grew by 23.5% year on year, and they sold 38,000 units in Jan 2026. In that the two-wheeler segment, big contribution by the motorcycle, and contribution is motorcycle is approx 89%, and scooter is 11%. And in that the motorcycle is grew by no sorry. Overall, the Hero MotoCorp is show the strong domestic demand, and they are improving in the exports. And next is TVS Motor Corps. TVS Motor Corps total sales grew by 28.7% year on year, and they sold 512,000 units in Jan 2026. And the total sales being contribution by the domestic two-wheeler. Their two-wheeler domestic sales is grew by 27.5%, and they sold 494,000 units in Jan 2026. In that two-wheeler domestic sales mix contribution is more big contribution by the motorcycle is 44%, and followed by the scooter is no sorry a big contribution by the scooter is 45%, and motorcycle is 44%, and followed by the EV scooter moped. And when we see the three-wheeler segment, three-wheeler segment is grew by 76%, 76.6%, and they sold 18,000 units in Jan 2026. And in that, the big contribution by the domestic three-wheeler segment. Overall, Tata Motors show the strong demand for the two-wheeler and three-wheeler segment. And going to the Bajaj Auto, Bajaj Auto sales grew by 25.3% year on year, and they sold 477,000 units in Jan 2026. And in the total sales, domestic two-wheeler is a big contributor, is approx 45%, and the next export is a export two-wheeler is contribution by 14%. And when we see the total two-wheeler sales is grew by 23.7% year on year, and they sold 406,000 units in Jan 2026. And in when we see the two-wheeler sales mix, in that big contributor is the domestic sales. And going to the CV segment, we see in that CV sales is grew by 35.2% year on year, and they sold 71,000 units in Jan 2026. And in the CV segment, big contribution is the contribution by the domestic CV. Overall, Bajaj Auto show the strong demand for the two-wheeler two-wheeler segment. Thank you.
Ashutosh, very, very exhaustive. I think you're the first one who's prepared a 12-pager report. Hats off to you for the report. थोड़े से grammar errors here and there. I did not stop you because I wanted you to go through the whole thing. You were using very good words. Comparisons were very nicely highlighted. बहुत अच्छे से progress बहुत अच्छे से किया. ठीक है? Now see, grown and grew. आपको सब कुछ पास में बोलना है क्योंकि वो बढ़ चुका है. करेक्ट? 26 जैन का हम बता रहे हैं, वो वहां तक बढ़ चुका है. तो यूज द वर्ड ग्रीव. ठीक है? यू आर यूजिंग द वर्ड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटेड एंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटर वॉज. सिंपल. वेरी नाइसली यूजिंग द वर्ड. ओके?
Okay.
Mihir, he has improved a lot. Mihir is sending a bouquet to you. Virtual है पर. Kudos, yeah, kudos.
Thank you, Mihir.
It is a magnanimous improvement. Magnanimous improvement. बहुत अच्छा. Directly to a 12-pager. And you did not budge. You did not, get tired, or the tempo was throughout the same. इसको step up करेंगे, थोड़ा fast करेंगे. Okay? थोड़ा fast
Yes, ma'am.
करेंगे. Let the content be the same. जैसे प्रेजेंट कर रहा है वैसे प्रेजेंट कर, बस थोड़ा सा स्पीड इंक्रीज करें. लेट्स डू दिस. दिस इज योर स्टेप अप. ओके, अदरवाइज kudos
Okay.
for today. Fair job. Yes, Ashutosh, can you quickly show? And by the way, Shantanu, you spoke continuously for 20 minutes. इसका मतलब है you can do wonders, boy. कितनी practice के लिए होती है?
2 दिवस
हाँ?
2 दिवसापासून करतोय.
Very nice. Don't this person? He's been practicing since 2 days, and it is very nicely, exhibited. Come on, this shows that work hard and you will get the results.
In that also, ma'am, I missed so many points.
It's
I
okay.
just cover approx.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But 20 minutes, you did not drop your energy. You were there in the tempo. You were telling the same things. Doesn't matter. Next step up is इसको थोड़ा सा fast करेंगे. Next time you will be more good. उससे better next time होगा. उससे better next time होगा. So you're going in the right direction, Shantanu. Kudos.
Thank you.
Ashutosh, please carry on.
Yes, ma'am.
So any
So good.
questions? Ashutosh, just give me a minute. Anyone wants to ask a question to Shantanu? As we promised, one question to Shantanu is a must. Bechara. Anyone?
Hey, hi Shantanu, great presentation.
Thank you, Kaustubh.
Yeah. So you've analyzed this automobile industry. So I just wanted to ask, what's your take going forward?
Yeah, in that analysis, analysis report, I'm see the in the four-wheeler segment, Maruti Suzuki is a big contributor, and it's also the show the strong to four-wheeler sales. And in the four-wheeler segment, the two-wheeler segment is big contributor is Hero MotoCorp. It also show the strong sales. I think both companies are better.
Yeah, but Maruti Suzuki is losing its share. So even though it is selling a lot, it is losing its share. So even its growth year on year was like 0.6%, and it was only driven by exports.
Yeah, they has a stable demand for the domestic PV.
Okay, is it a
Okay,
satisfactory
thank
answer?
you. Yeah, thank you, Shantanu.
Chalo,
Sorry,
great.
but yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, Shantanu. Chalo, okay. Ashutosh, please carry on.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to be presenting Chalet Hotels Q3 FY26 results. So starting with the headline performance, Chalet reported a strong quarter with revenue reaching almost 5.9 billion, representing 27% growth compared to the same period last year. The main reason behind this growth was the continued strength in the hospitality business with increased demand in corporate and leisure travel. And speaking about EBITDA, it also showed a strong performance, reaching 2.73 billion and with 29% growth year on year. Although the employee benefit expenses and other expenses increased by 26 and 23% respectively, the company managed to improve overall efficiency. Profit after tax also followed the same trajectory, with profit increasing 29% year on year to 1.24 billion, with margins climbing 30 basis points. Although there was an incremental cost of 10.2 million due to the implementation of new labor codes, but it remained relatively minor compared to the strong earnings momentum. Now moving to the hospitality segment, because that is where the most of the growth is actually coming from. It showed a good performance. Revenue from this business grew 23%, reaching 4.9 billion. The biggest driver behind this growth was the company's ability to generate a higher RevPAR. And this improvement, I think, mainly came from better pricing power, where room rates were increased quite significantly. And at the same time, the incremental room inventories also contributed to the overall revenue growth. If you go deep into the operational metrics, there was a solid improvement in overall pricing of the company, with ARR rising almost 16% to 14,970, and which shows customers' willingness to pay more due to the strong demand. And as a result, RevPAR increased almost 12% to 10,162. Room revenue also contributed a lot. It increased 24% to 3.1 billion, and it was majorly because of the strong demand in key markets like Hyderabad, Bengaluru, and Pune. F&B F&B increased 21% to 1.5 billion, and this demand came from the newly launched restaurants and bars at hotels like JW Marriott Mumbai, Novotel Pune, and Westin Powai. Moving to the residential business, it also delivered a solid quarter with 29% increase in revenue, reaching 744 million. The occupancy remained healthy at 83%, and the Powai property, its occupancy is expected to cross 90%. And this was because of the stable leasing demand and steady rental income. In the residential portfolio, the company sold 3 units and recognized revenue for 2. Meanwhile, the construction of the Koramangala project is still ongoing. Now, moving to the hospitality performance and comparing region-wise, if we compare the regional performance, we can clearly see other regions outperformed the MMR region. MMR region remained largely stable at with ADR increasing 5.8% to 13,720 and RevPAR rising 8.7% to 10,459. Occupancy also improved to 76.2%, and it was mainly because of strong corporate travel and strong performance of the business hotels. In contrast, other regions saw significant higher growth, with ARR climbing 25.3% to 16,179, and RevPAR almost grew 16%. However, the occupancy declined 490 basis points due to the new room additions in Bengaluru. It was somewhere around 129 keys, and the ramp up of Athiva Khandala, because this property, it takes time to stabilize. Therefore, there was a decline in occupancy. Moving to the segmental performance, we can clearly see resorts completely outperformed the business hotels, with ADR rising 30% and RevPAR increasing 26% year-on-year. And it was majorly because of strong performance of resorts, particularly Athiva Khandala, which had 5 sold-out days in the 45 days of operations. Moving to the business hotels, it remained largely stable, occupancy at 71%. There was a decent increase, which was supported by strong corporate and business demand across key markets like Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Bengaluru, which are often business markets. Now, moving to the portfolio scale, the company currently operates 16 properties, out of which 11 are operational with 3,389 keys, and 5 are under development with 1,180 keys. And these properties are coming in business and leisure markets like Mumbai, Kerala, and Goa. Then moving to other key highlights, the company continues to expand its pipeline with several projects under development and repositioning. Cignus Tower 2 in Powai, it is expected to become operational in FY27. Like I said before, Athiva Khandala, it has already started operations, and the company is actively looking for opportunities to expand with a 150 key resort in Udaipur and a potential acquisition of JW Marriott in Bangalore. They're also targeting to increase the leisure inventory to 20% in the medium term. And in addition, they have acquired a land adjacent to Rishikesh to enhance their portfolio. Now, moving to the final part, the management remains quite optimistic about the future outlook in the medium term, as they have 1180 keys under development, with one of the key major properties at Taj Delhi Airport. It's a 390 keys property, and they are expanding in the leisure and business markets as well. So I think all in all, the company is well positioned to benefit from this leisure and business demand that they are focusing on. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Very nice as always, very substantial. You could select your pages on your own, what is important. You did use a lot of good discourse markers, which I really like. You need not read your data. This is another way, exemplary way of presenting your papers. You need not read it. Just highlight one odd line, skip 2 pages, go back to the same, tell some story behind it, on your own make up a sentence and a statement. Wonderful way. Yes, Ashutosh? Wonderful way.
Ma'am, I think it was still a little too long in terms of explanation. Was
You
it?
can go almost, in fact, आप थोड़ा सा speed अगर बढ़ाओगे, थोड़ा सा, as I always tell, a little bit of zeal in your speech, it'll be more impactful. A little bit of zeal. थोड़ा सा peppy करो इसको. You will speak a little more, I can say, 1% more fast. Your fluency will also
Okay.
impact. And the data which you are presenting, it's a very nice way. Your sentences are structured in such a good way, I don't have to correct them. So you already have a unique selling point. Just try to bring in a little bit of zeal and add a little bit of speed. You're fantastic, Ashutosh.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Any questions to him? No questions? All right. Quickly raise your hands.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, Shivraj.
Ashutosh, as you have mentioned that the group is planning to expand their presence in leisure segment. So as of now, their major portfolio, their portfolio majorly in business segment, and now they are planning to expanding and they're expanding. So my question is business hotels are operated in a very efficient way. There is what that ratio, staff to room ratio is also lower than what that leisure segment has. So my question is as they are expanding their portfolio in leisure segment, so would it be any kind of impact of that on their margins in midterm, as you are explaining?
Well, I've gone through the con call, and what the management said is completely in contrast to what you are saying. They didn't say anything in terms of margin, like there will be any impact of the margin, although there was some because of the under construction properties. And since they have come into operation now, and there are still a lot of properties that are under construction, and they'll keep coming into operation. So this impact is going to be a little bit in the upcoming 2-3 quarters, but then after going forward, I don't think that is something to worry about.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
Okay, got it.
Did that answer your question, Shivraj?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So we have 20 more minutes. I think we can have 2 discussions, 10 minutes each. Anyone who wants to, 10 students in the first round, anyone who wants to participate. 10 of you can raise your hands for the first round and 10 in the second round, and we limit it to only 10 minutes. Okay? This is hustle.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, myself Tushar Bansali. I am new here. I wanted to present a TVS profile and TVS quarterly update report.
Okay. Where are you, Tushar? Is it Tushar Bansali?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Hi. Tell me, what is it again? Can you please explain?
I want to present TVS profile and TVS quarterly update report.
Now or tomorrow?
I can present it now as well,
Now, okay.
if you say so.
All right. We've already decided to have a GD. Can we pick this tomorrow first thing?
Works for me, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Now you have raised your hand, so you are going to participate in a group discussion. Correct?
No, actually, I raised for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then Tushar, you just lower your hand, see how the group discussion is done. And if you want to participate, you can participate in the second one, or tomorrow again, you can present as well as participate. Okay? Sounds good?
Done. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Great. Boys, in the first group. Chalo, quickly. Should investors avoid cyclical stocks? Should investors avoid cyclical stocks? Discuss. I'm timing you all for exactly 10 minutes.
Hello everyone, I'd like to start. My name is Kaustubh Barve and I'd like to start this group discussion. So before starting, I'd just like to put a layout what exactly are cyclical stocks. So cyclical stocks are the stocks which give good results or which work in a set period for like 3 to 4 years, or after 3 to 4 years, they have a cycle for like a business cycle: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And they follow this cycle around 4 to 5 years. So that I just took a number for approximation, but the cycle may vary from each business. One, I would like to say that investors should look after cyclical stocks because they are the most lucrative stocks. So when the business is in the introduction stage of their growth cycle, introduction stage of the business cycle, an investor can buy the stock, and when it has matured, they can sell the stock. So let me take an example for this. So an example is Radico Khaitan. So Radico Khaitan is a company which makes liquor, premium liquor, and it's a leader in the market. So when exactly is there an increase in demand for liquor? During festival season, Diwali, Ganpati, and year end. So all of these things luckily come in the same quarter, in December, November, October, November, December, in this area. So we know
That
that
is
in
not a
that
cyclical
period,
stock.
there will be an
That is
increase
not
in
a
sale
cyclical
for
stock.
that thing. Yeah, I'm just taking that as an example. I can go towards cement and all that, where that is quite
Yes,
complex
cement,
to
metal,
understand.
reality,
Metal,
those are
cement, and all
yeah.
that are cyclical. I'm just taking this as an example to show what exactly is a cycle, and it appears again and again.
Yes, yes.
So
So
during
what
this
I would like
period,
to add is
yeah,
Mihir, a
please,
little
go
louder.
ahead.
Mihir, a little louder.
yes, yes. So what I would like to add is if we look
Good.
at valuations, the valuations are at peak in the peak of the cycle, whereas they are lowest in the lower part of the cycle. And this works as a camouflage because at the lower stage of the cycle they looks overvalued, but from that is the point where they are going to go upwards, where the earnings are going to get improved, and this could be a biggest misrepresentation of the stock's intrinsic value for the investors, which they should look out.
Well, I would beg to differ. I think investors should completely avoid cyclical stocks. Why? Because it's very hard to predict the entry and exit of the particular timing of the stock. For example, look at Tata Steel, or any of the steel companies. So what happens is, if you see, one year they, let's say 2024, they report a profit, and 2025 they report a loss. So you can't predict the raw material input prices, which is the main ingredient for their operational business. If I know I can predict a particular steel price for the next year, it's very hard to impossible as an individual. Even I am as a commodity expert also, it will be very hard to predict. And even if I predict the steel and the raw material prices, what will the company able to make loss, or will the company able to make profit? Again, it's a very difficult task for me. So cyclical stocks are very difficult to predict in terms of their basic fundamental core. Why? Again, as I mentioned, entry and the exit are the two important parameters for the cyclical stocks, which are very hard and difficult to predict for any investor per se. So that's why investors should completely avoid the cyclical stocks.
Darshan, I'd like to look at your point, and I'd like to give a certain other perspective to it. So the bottom line is, in the market, higher the risk, higher the returns. And these stocks have quite high risk because they have high volatility. You never know where the cycle will end and when their earnings go away. And I feel like as investors, if we are looking for that alpha, if we are looking for that extreme type of return, these stocks are the one which benefit the most. For example, hotel sector. There is a current boom in the hotel sector after for like 5 to 6 years of decline, and we see
Hotel
that it's
sector,
going into a
there is
cycle.
there's a structural change happening in the hotel sector. That's why there is a boom. That's not a
Yes,
cyclical
I
thing,
will
I
agree
believe.
with Darshan.
But I
Because if
will
we see
continue with
the cycle is not
Kaustubh,
cycle
what
cannot be
Kaustubh said.
predicted, right?
Invest
The last height
basically.
of the realty is not been achieved yet. So what was the top in 2008? Nifty
Exactly.
realty. It has not touched it yet again. We are still in
In
drawdown phase from last
in
like what 20 years or
it's
something.
exactly. It's in hindsight, it's very easy to say that, oh, we could have invested in that particular period. 2024 was the period for particular cement or steel. This was the period where where it was particular company was in bottom. But it's all looking in the hindsight. But when exactly right now can I say that is it the bottom or is it the peak just by looking at a particular valuation or just by looking at a particular plain balance sheet or income statement? Very hard to predict certain cyclical stocks.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Darshan and Kaustubh. I think that I have neutral take because this investment decision is based on the risk averse or risk neutrality of the investor. So as Kaustubh said that we should invest, and you said that we should not invest. But if investor is risk averse, he or she may not be investing in the cyclical stock because of high earnings, volatility, and operating fixed cost. So as per, if the investor is risk neutral, he or she might want to create alpha, so he or she can go with the cyclical stocks. So this is my neutral takeaway.
Darshan,
Yes,
I
yes,
have a different
definitely.
opinion to
Adding
what you
to
said
what
I
Avinash
agree
because
with
just said,
Kaustubh,
uh,
as cyclical stocks are a major play in the investor's portfolio. If you see a major of the cyclical stocks are commodity driven. So in the commodity, there is a consolidation in a large time, but when these commodities uh, will be in a bull market, that remains in a bull market for a large time. So it can be a time for the investors to put that money. And it can be another thing to look in this is like a momentum investor and a contrarian investor. So in a declining phase, we can play it like a contrarian investor, and in a and if we are a momentum investor, we can make that as like a that thing.
Yeah, Karthik, thank you for that point because I feel like even as investors, like what Darshan said, to get in, so you need to make sure that you are getting in a period which is a boom, and you are getting out before it is going down, and that will only happen in these momentum phases, or if a cyclical stock is going up in the cycle. That's why I feel like all of these equity research analysts and all of these fund managers, they try to make sure they look at the deal books, delivery books, and try to find these cyclical stocks. There are a lot of funds, like Business Cycle Fund is literally the name of the funds, although they have a lot of churn. But what they do is that they look at different businesses, and they look at the introduction phase of the business, and then they put their money there. And I feel like that is a fund which is generating a lot of returns, even though it has a lot of churn going on. And I feel like it is only good if you're an active investor. You are actively tracking the market, not just an active investor in the market, but you're actively looking at information in the sector. Like not just sector specific, but having knowledge about different multiple sectors.
Yes,
So
yes,
time.
totally,
Yes,
totally. I'm
Kaustubh,
agree
I
with you,
agree
Yeah,
with
Yes,
Kaustubh.
Kaustubh,
As
Kaustubh,
you have
as
said
I
that
agree with
as
what
a
you
good
have
fund
mentioned.
cyclical
manager,
That's the fund management style, actually, what you have mentioned, the momentum strategy. Some focus on the value, some focus on the growth. Each and every fund manager has its own core philosophy. As you mentioned, certain fund house which has a high churn ratio, which typically happens in the cyclical stocks, and they tend to benefit. No harm in that. If a particular fund house or a particular fund manager is getting gaining alpha from a particular stock, cyclical stocks, it's well good for them. But as a generalized investors, if you see looking from a very generalized perspective, it's a tend to be avoided generally because there are no sustainable source of earnings. That's my take.
I
actually
completely
I
yes,
disagree
totally
with
completely
the
agree
I agree.
Darshan point
what
It
because
depends
Darshan
on
actually
the
said.
see
the
investors, but
cyclical
as a
stocks are
momentum
not
investor,
completely
in a
agree with what.
we are of the things that we are aware of the market. So if we are aware of the markets, we are go with the trend.
Yes, yes, totally agree with you, Karthik and Darshan also. As Kaustubh said that cyclical stocks give the alpha, but at the same time, as Darshan said, to gauge that time, to detect that time, to bet on that time, that correct time, that right time is difficult. So that investor should be should have that macroeconomics awareness and that commodity that he or she should aware of what there is going on in the market, because the cyclical stocks are not like for permanent holdings. They are just for diversify your portfolio for a tactical allocation wise, like for tactical allocation purpose. So
Adding to
my take is like, if as Kaustubh also said, if that investor is active and he is aware of all these kind of things, then only he can choose that cyclical stocks.
To
Otherwise, what
summarize to
Darshan have
that,
said,
adding
I
to
am
but
totally
I'd like
agree
to
with
add
that.
that
In the cyclical stock, the real risk lies
that
in the poor cycle timing
of Nifty
and lack
auto
of understanding of industry dynamics. So,
Please, someone has to conclude.
So to sum up, I just want to say one thing, that in the Indian markets, it is not completely practical to avoid cyclical stocks, because as you see, let us take an example of Nifty Auto, which was much
No
deeper in
examples in the
during.
end. No examples in the conclusion. Conclusion is just the summation. Mahen.
Okay,
Sorry.
ma'am. So taking the risk profile of an investor, it is completely practical to take a perfect allocation in its portfolio, like a certain percentage which a investor can bear the risk.
Okay. Mahen, conclusion could have been more impactful. जो आप examples वगैरह दे रहे हो, that has to come in the body. I'll start
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Kaustubh.
Tried to, but I get a chance.
You have to come within the time
Yes,
range,
yes.
not
Yes,
towards
yes.
the end. You will not get any time towards the end. And conclusion के बाद बोलने में तो कोई points भी नहीं मिलेंगे. Sorry to say that. So Kaustubh started very well, as always. Started with a good introduction, defined the term, which is the main focus of the question, which is a very good thing. So he laid down the foundation. Everything went well, vocabulary, fluency, the pace with which. Then he added a cherry on the cake, that was the Khaitan example which he gave, which was relevant. Mihir picked it up. He added a very beautiful hook, and then he added very good vocabulary words along with some usage of words like misinterpretation, which led to another discussion. Right. Darshan used a very nice hook. Again, he gave his own example. If I had to do it, it would be a dilemma. If I had to do it, I wouldn't be able to. So I was a very good highlight over there. So he was taking on his part and he was explaining the whole point. ये बहुत अच्छी strategy है, आप लोग कहीं ना कहीं use कर सकते हैं. If you don't get examples, use I. If I would be in a situation, I could. Avinash, wonderful hook and an amazing ending hook. I always say, end में बहुत अच्छे से finish करना है. He finished it very nicely. And he said, if. So he's giving assumptions and an explanation to the same. Again, which is an intriguing point. If this happens, this is happening. And he's using a simple language, which is very easy to comprehend. I really like it. Simple language, doesn't complicate stuff. Simple.
Thank you.
कार्तिक बहुत स्लो, थोड़ा सा पेस करेंगे, जल्दी जल्दी बोलना है आपको. Nobody will give you time and you're using filler words. Endings are not polished. Ending को polish करना है. मतलब आपका जो finishing statement होगा, that should lead to another inquisitive question or an inquisitive statement for another fellow of yours. From the forum, somebody should pick that. Okay? You came in twice, which is a very good thing. Prajakta, you were not audible. There's a Wi-Fi issue there. Shubham, not audible. Wi-Fi issue again over there. Shivraj, good hook, but हमें थोड़ा speed करना पड़ेगा. अब time लेके बात कर रहे हो, इतना time नहीं देगा कोई भी. By the time these are there will be strangers, they'll interject and they'll not allow you to speak. Okay? Don't repeat sentences. As Kaustubh said, no, you finish your point and finish it off. Will be quickly, impactfully. Mahen, you came at the very end, last mein aaya, which is not a good idea. Okay? During this whole thing, you should have come at least once. एक स्टेटमेंट बोल के वापस चले जाते हैं, बिग डील. ऑलराइट, हेमंत, you did not come in.
I didn't got chance.
You did not get
Chance
chance.
नहीं.
Nobody will give you a chance.
Yes. आज नहीं हुआ.
Yes, nobody will give you a chance. You have to grab your opportunity. All right, I request
All right.
everybody to lower their hands, and I want the other team to raise their hands, please. Neha, Mahen, 10 members I want. Shantanu, Saurav, Prajakta. Others, what are we doing? Ronit is there. Dikshank is there. Ronit is there. Ramaya, Divya, Saish, Ankita Banerjee today. Shubham, Mansi. Mansi, raise your hand. Ankita, raise your hand. Karthik. Tushar is there. Why aren't these people raising hands? Yes, Sahil, very good. All right. Yes, please switch on your cameras, everybody. Mansi, Ankita, Shantanu, yes. Get ready. I'm giving a very simple topic, not very, very difficult. Okay?
Ma'am, there is a problem in my camera. So can I switch off or on? Like it is.
Who? Dikshant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What did you do with it?
I don't know.
All right.
Tata, Dakota, Rona Fish.
Can long-term investing beat short-term trading consistently? Again, can long-term investing beat short-term trading consistently? Discuss. Hemant, you can participate. Start the debate. Make it quick. Hemant, good evening, everyone.
Oh, sorry. So good evening, everyone. Ma'am, 1 minute. I will close the door. Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm audible.
थोड़ा
Am
सा
I
loud,
audible?
थोड़ा चिल्ला.
अब ठीक है. So today's topic is whether long-term investment can beat short-term trading. So long-term investment means where we place our capital for longer amount of time to gain the maximum return. And short-term trading means where you have to trade on daily basis so that you will able to earn some percentage of the capital, like intraday trading. So I think that it's all depends on your skill. If a person who is well versed with fundamental analysis and who can understand the market and economy, he can do really well in long-term investing. But there are also very skilled trader who can beat long-term investment because if he can earn even 10% of his capital on a monthly basis, then yes, the internet trader can also have the chance to beat the long-term trader. So I have very neutral view for it. I think that both can do a wonder in the market if they are very skilled. That's my take on this.
So I would like to continue the Hemant. As we all know, the long-term investing benefits mostly get benefits from the compounding or the business growth or the lower cost. For example, if we take an example of if someone invested in HDFC Bank or Asian Paint or TCS or Maruti for the last 10 to 20 years, he or she maybe create a substantial wealth despite the multiple market crashes. And this return was majorly driven by consistent earning, earning growth and the not from basically a daily price movement. On the other hand, if we talk about the trading, in my opinion, trading basically depends heavily on timing, emotions, and the market volatility. While some traders quickly make profit, very few can do it consistently over a long period. In fact, I know many retail traders who loses money due to the frequent trading or frequent trade or the trading practices, unethical trading practices, or due to high brokerage costs and other psychological basis like fear and greed. I remember the case study which I had learned last year, like the in 2008 global financial crisis or even in COVID crisis, we see that the long-term investors mostly gain if we compare to short-term, if we compare to traders, because traders suffered sharply loss due to the sudden volatility, whereas the long-term investors who stay invested recovered and gain as the market rebounded. So that's all from my side.
Okay, so I believe
Adding to what Dashank
So
just said, I believe that long-term investment is for investors who are seeking more stable growth over a long period of time. However, short-term trading is for people who have a higher risk appetite, and the cons of short-term trading are that it is much more stressful and it requires a lot of constant attention, and also a lot of short daytime day traders also incur a lot of losses on a more frequent basis, as in their win rate is much lower than their loss rate. So hence long-term investing is a much better approach for people who are not as trained or skilled in day trading and don't have a high risk
okay, so
appetite.
I
Totally.
believe that it depends on the skills and the resources you have. For examples, I have examples of James Simmons. Okay, so he consistently generated above 60% of return on doing trading for over a decades. And even if I talk about the fund managers who run multi basically their ticket size are very high, so they use quantum computing and quantum trading, so they earn very high, and it depends on the knowledge or the resources you have, as I tell you earlier. Because even we have a recent news of White House representatives or the persons who are good, who has good contact there. So even she generated above the all the benchmark. Okay, so I believe that in the short term trading can beat the long term investing consistently, but it depends on the resources and the skills you have.
Yes, I partially agree with you, Saurav, because not everyone knows the trading. If I would, as an analyst, I would suggest long-term trading for my long-term investment, sorry, long-term investment for my client, because it will help in creating capital for them, in consist capital wealth for them, and basically they're aligning with their goals. Whereas in short term we can't explain to our clients that to invest in short term because to invest in daily basis because this market will go or this stock will go that, so that's why.
So what I believe is in case of market drawdowns or consolidation phase, those are the traders who gain most during those phases rather than long-term investor, because they get stuck for 2-3 years in the same investment, rather than even if a trader achieves a great performance, a trader can achieve a greater performance by strengthening by keeping tight stop losses, and they can easily outperform the long-term investor during consolidation and drawdown phases, as their losses are limited due to tighter stop losses, and while as long-term investors can hold their capital with 20-30% negative return for a longer time. So those are the traders who get saved during those periods.
I want to mention one
I
more
would
thing.
like to add
That
something here.
long-term investing.
Hello.
I think, sir, even the short-term investing includes not only
Yeah.
what intraday trading, but taking active actions during for certain market fluctuations. For example, many stocks goes down when Ukraine and Russia war happened. During COVID. Even some stocks were down to about 50%. Even for them recent examples, Adani stocks, if we
I would
remember.
like to add
So
something
so
here.
there was
Hello.
opportunity because the news were not much verified, and the stock went really from 4,000 to one less than 1,000 or close to 1,000. So in that case, so you must be active, and you should have the guts to take the action on the basis of the
Hello.
market
Hello.
fluctuation. Yep.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, Neha.
I would like to add that short-term trading comes with a lot of cost associated with it. The more number of transactions are there, the brokerage increases. There are a lot of taxes like STT and capital gains tax. So short-term trade, the net margin from short-term trade reduces because of the various costs associated with it.
Okay, so a very points was put up by fellow colleagues, like my friends. So I just want to conclude by saying that knowing the volatility of the market, so we should have the like. If I were to invest in, I were given a choice, I would have allocated my resources in both the long term and short term efficiently with. Keeping a reserve for the short term investments, and since we know that it will as said by Neha, that it will be there will be more transaction costs that are being incurred in the small investments, so that is more trickier also. So what my take would be to allocate my resources skillfully to both the investments. Thank you.
So along with the high transaction cost, there are many drawbacks like the high time pressure, highly emotional time pressure, or we can say the trading also demands the continuous time and monitoring of the
Diksha,
stock.
can I stop you here because she's already concluded?
Okay, sorry.
After conclusion, there's no point in speaking, right? Please
Okay,
remember. All right?
I haven't heard that. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So quickly, I'll give you your feedbacks. Hemant, introduction was very nice, but I forced you to give it.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to volunteer.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, you have to volunteer because you have everything. You have all the masala. You're just not making your omelette. Voice is good, content is good, fluency is good, grammar में errors नहीं है. Only that voice, you just have to raise your voice. बाहर निकलो उसमें से. You have very good content to counter attack and to support. और क्या बोलूं? हेमंत थोड़ा और मुझे दिखो. Dikshank, good vocabulary there. I like that case study which you shared. I remember I read a case study. Very good reference. Very good reference. Prajakta there. बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हो. Fast बोलना practice करना है. The moment you start speaking fast, Prajakta, the us which you are doing, अपने आप ही vanish हो जाएंगे. I want to see more of you. Saurabh, बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हो आप भी. You are trying to rebuttal, enter in, but there is a little grammar error which I can see. आप उसको थोड़ा ठीक कीजिए. Major नहीं है कुछ भी. बहुत थोड़ा. Saurabh, are you listening to me? Can't
Yes,
see you.
ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
ma'am. I'm
Yes,
listening.
Saurabh. थोड़ा सा grammar practice करो. थोड़ा सा grammar practice because these grammar छोटे छोटे जो errors हो रहे हैं ना, they're evident. You're saying hundreds where it is not necessary plurals, वहां पे plural लगा रहे हो. तो evidently, deliberately इसको practice करो. Otherwise, your encountering is also very good. The way you encounter people, I like it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mahen, fast बोलना start करो. Yes, fluency के साथ साथ
Okay.
speed भी important है. And mind your gestures. Don't try to touch here. Don't try to touch here. ठीक है? Mind your hand gestures, especially when you are speaking. Okay. Neha, girl. Again, हिम्मत वाली बात है आप में भी. You have all the masala. You're not making your omelette. I don't know what are you waiting for. Very nice voice. I told you. You just came in one simple statement. Why? You could have added some more flavor by adding just an example, a red example, or your experience, cite your own experience. I want to see more of you people. Yes? Ankita, good that you gave the conclusion, but I want you to be a little more agile. थोड़ा सा और इसमें ये लाना है. The conclusion should be impactful. So raise your voice, bring in a little more vigor. Okay? थोड़ा सा इसको peppy करेंगे, then the ending will also be very impactful. Okay? और ending में I मत use करो. Ending में आप बस बोलो, this was discussed, this was also discussed, but the whole discussion inclines towards this. Okay? Or we have not been able to come to a conclusion. Both the ways are fair enough. Both the ways are right in their own position, or something like this. You want to go neutral, that is also fine. You want to take a side, that is also fine. But conclusion impactful karna hai hame. It should leave an impact. It should leave us with some questions, or maybe a conclusion, impactful conclusion. So starting बहुत peppy होनी चाहिए, ending बहुत peppy होनी चाहिए. बीच में energy was missing. Bring in more energy, people. Again, I can understand end of the day, I can't force you all to, enjoy my party. But I would really love you enjoy my party. And all these people, please understand, all these individual chatters in the class, individual chatters, I should not name them, they know their names, okay? This is getting live streamed. Everybody on YouTube, whoever wants to see us, is also looking at your Sahil, I love you, and Kostu Benavi meeting out. All your chats, okay? All your chats are there. Hemant will go to IIT, that also Delhi, okay? Sab dikh raha hai unko. So if you really want to make your dates public, please keep chatting. Otherwise, be confidential. Let's not chat. Only if it is related to that particular topic, the way you all share the datas or a diagram or some charts for references, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, everybody's reading our chats and that is not nice.
Ma'am, we were talking about the short-term trading actually.
Yes, but
And we are talking about the
but
high
nobody is
frequency
going to
traders.
read the charts from the starting, Hemant. है ना? So let us be a little more secretive. Okay? So we're stopping our chats there in the forum. Only if it is related to the topic, please drop in your comments, drop in your answers. Those who are not participating in that particular debate can put their comments in the comment section. I don't mind that. Okay? All right. Wonderful session today. Tomorrow we are starting with the new guy. I'm forgetting his name. Please remind me. Tushal.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we'll start with him. Others, those who want to present, please come well prepared and impress me. Okay? So let's call it a day and I'll see you all tomorrow. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.